So let's go to the 2026 football recruiting class. Um, for anybody that is watching this game and is also paying attention, I would say it's now open up a 57-43 lead on UCF midway through the second half. So that's good to see them start pulling away there. So you get I would say it's got a couple commitments early on. Um, Milan Paris, receiver from the St. Louis area, that size right there, or sorry, not St. Louis. He's from Ohio, from Stowe, Ohio. Milan Paris. I mean, the thing that immediately jumps off the page though is that size, 6'5", 200. Recently, haven't seen Iowa State go after a lot of those big, tall trees like they used to, where they had Al Lazard and Hakeem Butler, and then you had Sean Shaw was a guy out of Oklahoma, and then there was he never played at Iowa State. But Tristan Michaud came out of Canada. He was kind of thought to be maybe the next in line for that big, tall archetype of receiver. Um, but they've got him. They've got Milan Paris now. Um, he's got a Cincinnati offer there. Not a ton of big time offers. A lot of MAC stuff. There's a Kentucky offer there. Um, Wisconsin offer. So I mean, like some decent programs. Um, he's probably a developmental process, 6'5", 200. So he's probably a little bit lankier. Interesting guy though. And having a guy like this, I mean, he's committed already, which means I would be shocked if he's not here for spring football next in 2026. So interesting prospect there. And then there's another one down here. Caleb Francois, a running back out of Minnetonka, Minnesota. Not currently ranked. Um, just got the North Dakota offer, but he committed really early. He just committed actually last week. So he's committed well ahead of his junior season. He committed on his junior day, I believe. So this is a guy that, like I said, the running back room is a little bit of a log jam right now, but for the most part, any guy that they've thrown out, they've generally speaking done a really good job recruiting running backs. There hasn't really been any. There's been a couple that have been not as great. Like Cartavius Norton was kind of a bust, but he was also not a super high rank or anything like that. He was kind of a guy that we took, and we thought when his freshman season, he got a couple carries. I'm like, oh, this kid's really interesting. Um, and they just didn't pan out. He couldn't stay healthy. And then Eli Sanders was fine. Went to New Mexico, had a really good season. Now he's at USC, which is interesting. So, but for the other ways, for the most part, Iowa State has a good legacy of recruiting running backs and producing good running backs. So, I'm fine with anybody they want to take at that position. I believe those are the only two commitments for the 2026 class. You got a couple of guys. I do want to look though at the state of Iowa, because Iowa's got an interesting. There's not a lot of like high end Division I prospects in the state this time around, but there's a couple notable names here. First one being the top ranked player in the state, Evan Jacobson, and he's from Waukee. That name may sound familiar because he is the younger brother of Michael Jacobson, who obviously played basketball at Iowa State, and is now currently and played professional basketball in Croatia for a year, and then randomly showed up in the NFL as a tight end, and he's still in the NFL. He spent a few years with the Seahawks, and I think he went to the Falcons maybe for a year. Actually, I can tell you. He went to the Colts. He was with the Seahawks for a year, Colts for 3 years, and now he's with the Saints. So, Michael Jacobson, his older brother, has been sticking around, and his brother in Ben, or sorry, Evan Jacobson is a high end prospect. He's a full on blue chip prospect from the state of Iowa, 6'7", 220 at tight end, pretty much made in a lab to play at Iowa State. But obviously, because he is a blue chip prospect, you are going to be fighting off some teams. You can see he's got Auburn, Arkansas, Baylor, Colorado. I'm sure he's got offers from everybody: Florida State, Indiana, us, Kansas State, Louisville, LSU, Miami. Interesting that I don't see Iowa on here. I would kind of be shocked if Iowa is not looking at the number one recruit in the state that is a tight end, but maybe they just decided that they just don't have a shot on him. I don't know. But what I do know is that Iowa State's going to get as good a shot at Evan Jacobson as anybody. You're right there. You've got his brother came here. He's in the backyard. Iowa State's got a great recent legacy with tight ends. This is a guy I think Iowa State will go. I think they're going to push hard after Evan Jacobson. Um, Jade McGregory is another guy. He's out of Valley, Western Wayne Valley, and Des Moines. Obviously, a big for anybody from Iowa. That's anybody in Iowa already knows this, but anybody outside of Iowa, West Wayne Valley is one of the best, consistently one of the best football programs in Iowa. And they actually just got a recruit out of the 2025 class in Xavier Robinson. If we go back to the 2025 class, where Iowa State did really well. Let's see if I can pull the state rankings here. Iowa State did pretty dang well in the state. Got a good chunk of these of the good recruits here. But Xavier Robinson is one down here that took a receiver out of Valley, so it's former teammate. This is a guy that I don't know what we'll see from him as a true freshman, but this is a guy I'm very interested to see what happens with him um, for this upcoming season to see if they'll find a way to get him the ball on the field. But you know, you've got a teammate there, local kid. This is obviously a guy that they're going to go after, but he's got some nice offers. He's got a Georgia offer right there, so that's notable. Um, if how committable that is, I don't know, but he's obviously got offers from everybody except for Iowa, because apparently Iowa thinks they're too good for a four-star athlete from Des Moines. But offers from all the local-ish schools, and then that big one from Georgia. So, if Iowa State can land either of those guys, that's a huge win. Because typically you see some guys like this typically end up going out of state because they are if they're really high end, like elite blue chip prospects, you typically see that believe they have a really high end like NFL future. A lot of times you see those guys go out of state, even away from Iowa and stuff like that. So landing either of these two guys, I think, is a huge win for Iowa State. If you can somehow land both, you're talking. This would be the best. You're on pace for the best class in school history. Couple other guys, this Julian Manson, I would assume he's probably going to end up at Iowa. He's from Iowa City. Yeah, he's gonna end up at Iowa. I'm guessing he's probably a safety or a linebacker. He's probably a linebacker at 6'4", 215. He's probably a linebacker, but you got a number of these guys though here that are interesting athletes. There's not a ton of D1 prospects in this particular class, but you've got a shot at a few of these. You've got a linebacker here running. This 6'3", 195 is probably a linebacker, maybe a running back. So there's not a lot in the state, but the couple guys right here at the top, you want these two guys real bad. Evan Jacobson should be priority number one for this recruiting class. He just should be. The tight end room has depth, and there's some really interesting young talent there. But when you can get a guy like this that's a full-on blue chip prospect at one of your premium positions on offense, he's a local kid, he's an Iowa State legacy. You got to have this kid. But, outside the state, it's still really early in the class. Even like the targets right now for Iowa State are going to be fairly gray. It's there's still going to be a lot of guys that are going to show up on their senior tape that I would say will offer throughout the summer and fall. They'll get on visits. So this offer list is certainly not comprehensive at all. Jeffrey Roberts, I forgot about him. He's a receiver from Ames. I believe he'll be a walk-on. It's early for this class. This list of targets is not comprehensive, but I think you can clearly look at this and identify Evan Jacobson as priority number one. Jade McGregory is maybe priority 1B. You still want to, even if there's not a lot of high-end prospects in the state, you still want to have your foot. You still want to have your fingerprints on the top end of the state recruiting class every year. Even if you can't get the majority or you can't get the highest ranked one, you still need to grab at least a few to keep your footprint in the state. Because like Matt Campbell said when he got here, is he wants to establish a 6-hour recruiting radius and say, we want to own this 6-hour recruiting radius. So that goes over into Wisconsin. That goes over to Milwaukee and around. It goes up to it goes up to the Twin Cities. It goes over, it goes down to St. Louis and Kansas City. And it goes over into Nebraska and things like that, and over into Illinois. And in the even parts in the Indiana, and then obviously they've got all those ties to Ohio as a staff. So trying to own that area, and you need to hit that footprint, that main footprint every year, and try to get as much as you can. You know, every class you're gonna take somebody from Texas, you're gonna take some people from Florida. That's just how you're gonna do it because those states have some of the have the best college football in the country. California, Florida, Texas, Georgia, I think are generally considered like inarguably maybe the four best. I'm sure you could talk about Pennsylvania and Ohio, whatever. There's lots of good states, but you're gonna see Texas and probably Florida in every class. But I would say the majority of your roster is gonna be Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota, Missouri, Kansas, Ohio. A huge chunk of Michigan. Huge chunk of your roster is gonna be from those states. And that's okay. Lots of winning programs have won national titles from rosters built in that area. I would say it's not a national title team, not a national title caliber program just yet, but hopefully they can be a Big 12 title caliber program this season. The schedule sets up nice for them.